Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We are just getting started. So thank you all so much for joining, and we are going to kick off shortly. Hello, Ruth.
Hi.
Are we live?
Within Zoom, so I've just got to do it quickly.
Right.
Thank you.
So thank you all so much for joining, and we are going to kick off shortly. That's my avatar of myself speaking.
Nice. I'm on the LinkedIn event and it's saying pre-live. So we're not live yet.
Okay, I think actually we've just gone live. Ruth and I are actually coming to you from a secondary streaming platform. So if it feels like there's a 30-second delay, there potentially is a 30-second delay. But welcome everyone. I'm really, really happy to have you all with us today. I'm Alison Branger. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Launchmetrics. And today's LinkedIn Live is marketing sustainability and a beauty brand and beauty brands. Getting It Right with Lush, focused on the intersection of sustainability and beauty, featuring Ruth Andrade, Earth Care Strategy Lead at Lush Cosmetics. Did you like that little accent, how I switched from like super?
Yeah, sounded Brazilian.
I was working on it. My Portuguese is probably the least Latin-y language I can speak, but I was trying to have, a little je ne sais pas, as they say in French. So I wanted just to do a little introduction about you and your role at Lush and what role kind of Lush has taken when it comes to this Earth Care strategy that you lead. So if you don't mind, I'll do my best. But Lush is a brand that has long been committed to environmental and social causes. And Ruth has really been at the forefront of this mission for nearly 2 decades. So she began her career at Lush as a sales assistant and eventually became the company's first environmental manager, working to implement sustainable practices across Lush's global operations. So today, Ruth leads a group of environmental partners that work with multiple disciplines of the business, driving the company's sustainable development towards strategy forward. In this conversation, we're going to discuss how beauty brands can create products in harmony with nature, promote sustainable living, and drive innovation in the beauty industry. Before we kick off, Ruth, I know you have a very busy and exciting day, a lot going on. And as you said, this was your 109,024 interview. No, I'm just kidding. Maybe you could share a little bit about where you're dialing in from, what's going on, and the excitement you guys have going on at Lush.
Right. So, hi, everyone. I'm dialing in from Poole, which is the home of Lush on the southwest coast of the UK. And the building I'm in today is actually the Green Hub, which is our circular economy. It's like the heart of the circular economy at Lush, where we bring all the packaging and the materials that get returned by our customers to our stores, and also where we process all the waste from manufacturing, trying to retain the value of materials. We do product donations, we do repairs and maintenance. We have a circular system for a lot of the materials that we use in manufacturing, so they get washed and reused. So yeah, and today's like our open day, because this is now also going to be an educational space and a space for the community and for us to host school visits, inspirational trips if you want to learn more about the circular economy and how we're doing it at Lush. So yeah, really special. It also means that maybe someone is going to open the door and interrupt us. So this is the quietest space I found today. There are over 100 people today here.
We actually are really hoping someone opens the door because it always just makes it more fun, right? And less staged. And then you have to explain, hey guys, I'm on LinkedIn Live with Launchmetrics.
Yeah.
And then you grab them and you make them join the LinkedIn Live.
That's so like me to do this and put people on the spot.
Then you're definitely like my new best friend. We spoke about this before everyone else joined the call, but you've been at Lush for more than 19 years, or on and off for 19 years. Maybe I think a lot of people dialing in know that sustainability is important. I think their companies know it's important, but many companies still don't know how to address this topic. And they also don't know how to put the right leadership in place to kind of manage all the work that there is to be done. Maybe you could talk a little bit about, how you became Lush's first environmental manager.
Oh God, it's a fun story. So I'm originally from Brazil, and I had a fine and successful career in Brazil, and I decided to move to the UK just for 6 months.
For
And
great weather.
yeah, this was already like 2004, so nearly 20 years ago, and I was already vegan. And I come from a very progressive city in Brazil, which when I moved to the UK, we had just had very progressive measures regarding, yeah, gender, environmental issues. Like we had recycling services across 100% of the city, even in the slums. And I was really exposed to a lot of this. And I was already vegan, really part of the animal rights movement, the vegan movement in Brazil. And I moved to the UK, and I was like, wow, this is really backwards. They don't even recycle here. Like, and I only wanted to get a job with I didn't want to sell meat because I was already vegan and already knew Lush. So I found a job as a sales assistant and started working at Lush. But I started implementing in my own shop, like some environmental practices like recycling, or can we save energy, or can we reuse water? And one day the Lush founder, like Mark Constantine, walked into the shop, and I cornered him a bit. Everyone would just like sing his praise. And I was like, why we don't even have the packaging identification code on our packaging? I don't know how to recycle. Currently, we don't have any recycling services. I'm having to take this to like a recycling center. I just gave him a hard time about like lighting and energy, everything. And then, like he always does, he said, do you want to do it? And I said, okay, yeah, if you want me to, I can help. And that's how it started. So we started by implementing, like really the first thing was waste management, both in manufacturing and retail. And we went out of the way to try to find ways to reuse our materials. Then we started looking into, the recycled content of packaging. So we soon switched. So in 2007, we already switched all of our pots and bottles to 100% recycled plastic. Still manufactured in China. Then we moved manufacturing to the UK. Then we moved into closed loops. Then, we moved into collecting from our customers. Now we're moving to prevented ocean plastics for our bottles. So you can see like the evolution since 2007 of this influence. And then it went into energy. So how can we switch to renewable energy, which we did already in 2008. Many initiatives. And then from, I think, 2009-10, the revolution of our supply chain came. And I think this is still where we have the biggest impact. This is where we have all cosmetics brand is where all of our impact is supply chain. So little is actual operations. So this is where since then we focused a lot of attention. How can we really create a positive impact in the supply chain and of course reduce our negative impact? So I think that was that journey of awareness, starting with waste and recycling, energy, and then the big chunky scope 3 emissions. Now we call scope 3 emissions and supply chain emissions. But back then we were just trying to do permaculture in the supply chain. Yeah.
It's incredible. And when you say 2007, as I said, I think a lot of people dialing in are still trying to figure it out. And it's interesting because you would even say probably that you guys are still trying to figure it out, but you're light years ahead of so many other companies, so many other brands, and even like other established companies too. So I don't know if it sounds patronizing or not, but really like kudos to what you and the team have been doing, because everything that a company can do or should do is going to make huge impact, like for longevity. So, I don't know, it's good that one person and your kind of just desire to do a little bit has become a lot. So that's really exciting. And it's interesting. We do a lot of data work. Our customers are always trying to understand, how the consumer demand is impacting what brands do, which is good and bad, right? So I think the fact that consumers today are actually really conscious of what of what brands are selling or producing, the means by way they produce these goods. I don't know. I think it's great. Good and bad, I guess you could say. But the conversations around sustainability from last year to this year have increased by over 50%. And
Wow.
in fact, I would say that's not even as much as I thought it would be, because I feel like it's everywhere, but obviously it's the pocket of people that we speak to. You know, I guess I would be like really curious to know how, we talked a little bit about, how the supply chain and from an operational perspective, what you guys have done has changed. Do you think the product development strategy has also evolved in this area?
I think yes and no. So I think what happened is we helped to make certain things popular. So if you look, I think also the birth of Lush, like Lush was really bootstrapped into existence with like the founders maxing credit cards and opening a shop with what they had, with this concept of being really frugal and really based on like a fresh and veg shop. So they wanted to spend as little as possible in packaging, and things that they had already developed in the 80s, but in their other businesses, it was all wrapped. So like the shampoo bar exists from the 80s, bath bombs, but it was all wrapped. When they opened Lush, that was the birth of really the modern day naked or solid cosmetics already in 1995. So 95, you could buy a shampoo bar and, a bath bomb. And then of course, over time, I think Lush helped popularize and educate customers that those alternatives were as good as a bottled alternative. So I have a feeling that we supported the education of customers rather than being led by customers. We led them. We did a lot of campaigning around naked and a lot of talks about packaging, the impact of packaging, until it became mainstream. So now we have Garnier that makes a shampoo bar. So I think we were more trying to create the demand rather than following the demand. And then lately the same with like self-preserving moisturizers. So we're very passionate about trying to use as little preservatives or no preservatives in our products. And there's been a lot of invention and innovation around that. And I think last year or the year before, maybe last year, we launched a whole facial moisturizers that are completely synthetic preservative free, and the formula preserves itself, and it's also based on how honey is produced, so it's like a biomimetic idea. And again, it's not something that is really well known or spoken about or that customers care about, but then how can we talk to them about the microbiome and why they should care? So I think at Lush, we're a brand that helps tell the story of why people should care rather than give something that customers are already asking for.
I think that's smart. It's funny though, I do remember back going to my first Lush store in New York, and it felt like such a luxury actually that you could like pick up this bath bomb and just buy a bath bomb directly, and it wasn't in this like gross cheap packaging.
Yeah.
So in a way, something that was meant to just be kind of natural and organic ended up being like very luxurious and cool, even if maybe at the time you weren't, that wasn't always the mission of the company to be that such a sustainable company. And
yeah,
maybe it was already hidden in the ethos of the company and you didn't know.
Yeah, and I think, to be honest, I think the founders of Lush have also been quite active. They're keen bird watchers. They really care about those issues as well. So I think they were already present from the beginning. It's just that from, like 2004, 5, 6, 7, 2007 was always also a revolution. Like we had the capacity and the money, I think, and the market was ready to push the envelope on a lot of those things. But I think they're there. And I think the difference at Lush is to have the people at the top care, and they care so much. And then they hire activists, right? So then they hire people that care even more than them. And I think this is how you make change happen quite fast, is like it's bottom up and it's top down. and then they meet together in the middle, and this is what allows it to scale, so it becomes the company culture, and it's not just, you know, a sustainability team on the side or a couple of things that we do here because we want a certain label. Yeah.
Completely. I think the question to kind of follow up to that everyone asks is, and maybe to step back at the same token, Lush not only, you know, is such like an avid supporter of these environmental issues, but also they've been quite committed to animal rights, to mental health. You know, I think everybody, of course, if the option was to support these various causes, would always be to do that. But the challenge brands always have is like, how do they balance these needs with the need to drive profitability and growth? You know, what would be your suggestion, or how do you see the company kind of achieving that for our listeners?
I think we are not going to have everyone doing everything absolutely perfectly, right? Lush is also far from perfect. Like, we also don't fit anything. We're not organically certified, even though we use tons of organic materials. We're not 100% natural, even though the vast majority of materials that we use are natural. We're not 100% vegan. We still have, you know, products that use honey, but we use honey because it's coming from amazing biodiversity projects that support biodiversity. So I always say there is no right decision, there are only trade-offs. I think what we need is to be aware of the trade-offs and look at the things that we can have the biggest impact and we can really influence and you know, and create the most change. So for a cosmetics company, like, we know, like, the beauty industry is creating culture, right? Brands are the big storytellers. Like, you're more influenced by an influencer or a brand than you are by the government or even a nonprofit. So with that also comes responsibility. And I think it's really thinking, what is the world that we want to create? Like, do we want to have a world, be in a world where young women are committing suicide because they don't fit a standard of beauty that we helped to create? You know, do I want to live in the world that is, you know, warming, sea levels are rising, island states are going underwater, we have so much suffering and pain because of what we're doing? Do I want to live in the world where, like, rabbits are being tested on and having their, you know, skin hurt and their eyes hurt and many dying just so we can have a viable business? Like when we really ask ourselves those questions, like, of course we want to make the right decision. And then it's, how do you redesign the business model to fit the right decision and not the other way around? Yeah, so it's a different way of thinking. It's not how do I keep my existing business model that is based on a paradigm of oppression and, you know, control and capitalism, where some lives are worth more than others, and how do I do incremental changes into a business model that I probably don't agree with, rather than, this is the right thing to do, how do we redesign our businesses to do the right thing? And it sounds very worthy, but, and again, it's not trying to be absolutely perfect. It's just, how do we sleep at night, right? I want to be able to go home and think, all right, I'm working for a business that is actually trying to build a positive future. And if not, then, you know, you're not being true to yourselves or to your kids or to the future generations or to your community. Yeah. So I think we make this harder than it is because we keep bringing it back to capitalism. I think we need to make it easy because we bring it back to our heart, you know, like, just to be a bit, hippie about this.
I love it. No, totally. Yeah. I think, you know, no one wants to think about killing little bunnies just to have like the right bath bomb. So
yeah,
I think
we're doing this.
It's an easy decision, right? Like,
yeah, that's it. When we bring to that level, it is an easy decision. Yeah.
No, absolutely. And I think you said something really smart in there too, that everyone can make some decision, right? Everyone can make some change. And you said it earlier too, it's not like everything you do is organic, right? You're not saying you're the end all be all, and not every company needs to be the end all be all. They just need to start with a baby step. you know, we work with a lot of companies, big and small sizes. And I remember when we were starting here in the UK, there was a very big mass market or high street brand, as they call it here. And we were working with their PR team to help them track samples. And they were like, I mean, our t-shirts cost $3 or 50 cents to produce. Like, it doesn't matter if we don't get it back. We don't need to track it because it's like so much effort to track t-shirts. Who cares? And we're like, right, but the more t-shirts you don't get back, the more you have to loan, the more waste of things going in and out of your business. You know, so even at like the most granular level for like the most inconsequential item, we find with technology can help our customers be a little bit more effective and a little bit more efficient too, and reduce their carbon footprint. You know, we started to talk a little bit about how you guys are implementing new kind of manufacturing or supply chain processes that are a bit more sound and sustainable. You know, maybe you could share a little bit more about that, because perhaps we have a few, you know, people on here that would like to hear about how they could take baby steps to, you know, stop wasting t-shirts or whatever it is.
I think one thing that we've always been very action focused rather than metrics focused at Lush. And it's only like I've been insisting quite a lot in the past few years. It's like, no, we need to be very deliberate. Like, we don't have infinite money or infinite time, and we need to tackle the things that matter most. So like this idea of really, I think it's nice to do baby steps, but do baby steps in the areas that you really have a big impact. So where those baby steps are going to deliver a lot of change and a lot of impact. And I think we spend a lot of money and resources in perhaps paying attention to things that, you know, may not matter most. And as I said, if you're a beauty brand, it's supply chain. So if you're a clothing brand, it's also highly likely to be in the supply chain. So I think it's understanding your impact is, I think, a really good first step. And there's so much technology out there and so many systems. Like we've also tried different systems and softwares to help us work out where we have the biggest impact. And then with the supply chain, we're also, we tried different strategies of partnerships with a lot of brands are doing this, and like also Body Shop started doing this right at the beginning, Natura, Lush, which is really partnering with communities. So you don't really have to do this alone. Like this idea that we can partner with people that are already doing this. So partner with people that are already producing cocoa through agroforestry, partner with the people that are already producing cotton in regenerative ways, partner with people who are, you know, processing plastics or collecting, like now we're launching this prevented ocean plastics. We're partner with small waste pickers and waste pickers cooperatives that are already doing it, right? So how do we really look at what's already there, and what are the reciprocal relationships that we can have with people doing the right thing? I think this is also more important than technology per se, but I can give many examples of technology using blockchain, the supply chain, especially for species that are, you know, that like frankincense, for example, where there are human rights issues, there are also environmental issues in the supply chain. How can we bring technology to help this? We also, I think, have all we said, all right, if something doesn't exist, what's the one thing that we can invent that would change the system? So for example, with packaging and Naked, we created a very simple app. I mean, the digital team is gonna get mad at me if I say it's simple, because I don't know. But it's like we're using Google Lens to be able to read products without packaging and get all the information. So you really don't need packaging. And in Japan, we were able to sell Naked products because we had that app. So even the authority said, oh yeah, okay, you don't need packaging because you developed another way to get information about packaging. So yeah, again, focus on what matters, collaborate, and invent things that will perhaps change the field for everyone, you know, that is going to change the system for everyone and not just for you. But yeah, I'd say baby steps towards big impact. I'm not a small step kind of person.
Okay, so we don't have much time left, but we have some audience questions. So at least I want to try to get through one of them.
Sure.
The first question is, we see how partnership and collaborations are a powerful approach to generating awareness and revenue. How does Lush collaborate with other organizations to advance its sustainability goals? And what impact do these partnerships have on your sustainability efforts and your business performance? It's a long question.
Yeah, I think I mentioned a few, especially around supply chain. I think also at Lush we had a slight preference for partnering with grassroots organizations. So we partner a lot around our campaigning, because we also like that our shops become a platform for activism. So we partner with a lot of grassroots organizations around campaigning. We also have a very successful established partnership, because again, animal testing, right? Lush has been fighting animal testing since the very early days, like since the inception of Lush. We were already really looking to raw materials that weren't tested on animals. We campaigned a lot for the legislation that came in 2013, the Cosmetics Directive, which now again is being threatened. I don't know if you saw the headlines of last week that animal testing for some cosmetics ingredients is being allowed to happen again in the UK. Well, has been allowed since 2019, which is a disgrace. So that kind of like systemic impact is really important, that we're not doing this alone. So we've partnered with Ethical Consumer Research Association in the UK to do the Lush Prize. And the Lush Prize is really trying to push science to replace animals in all kinds of testing, not just cosmetics, the Humane Society International around animal testing. So again, partnering with, collaborating with other organizations that have shared goals and shared aims, so we can move, more powerfully together. Another really successful partnership is for our packaging return scheme. So we have this, if you bring your plastic packaging back to Lush, you get a 50p discount towards your new shop. And it's great because I keep all of them and I go into Lush and I get like £15 discount. And we have a closed loop for the black packaging in a lot of markets. And that also required a collaboration between Lush having decentralized manufacturing, buying packaging that is made locally, and finding a great plastic reprocessor locally as well. So that triangle allowed us to do closed loops in Japan, in Croatia and Germany, in the UK, and in North America. Germany goes to Croatia. So yeah, it's like, I think, again, we talk a lot about regeneration at Lush, and I think one key ingredient of regeneration is evolving capacity for the whole system. So making change that is not just going to benefit us, but how can we, by making change, make it easier for everyone else that wants to make the same kind of change. So whether it's fighting animal testing, whether it's creating the new recycling center here, whether establishing partnerships in the supply chain for more environmentally friendly materials, all of that is building the capacity of the system to, what we say, leave the world lusher than we found it. And I think that's a core pillar of Lush. It's not just buying better, is how do we evolve, the system together through a lot of collaboration. Actually.
I love that. Leaving the world lusher than we found it. I think that's such a perfect note to end on. And if you guys have any other questions, I'm sorry we didn't get to them, but feel free to send them in. And we will hound Ruth on the side to come back to you guys. Ruth, thank you again so much for your time.
You're welcome.
You've had a really, really busy day, and looking forward to seeing how this new hub goes. And have a great rest of the day to everyone else that dialed in. And thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.